Mentorship is really about empowering you to make the best choices for you. It's not trying to sway you or trying to push you in one direction or another. It's really about what do you need, what do you want, and helping you understand even what that is. Because I see a lot of students who embark on the CRNA path, they don't even know where to start. They know they want to accomplish this goal, but they don't even know where to start and what the order to do it in. And they get really frazzled when they think, I have all this stuff to do, but I don't know where to start. And I feel like I'm going to mess up a step or miss something. And again, that's why CRNA School Prep Academy was born. And essentially also why Nurses Teach Nurses was born, because the power of mentorship is it really allows you to accelerate your success in really any area of life. Can having a mentor accelerate your CRNA journey? In today's episode, we're going to discuss why mentorship is important as you embark upon your CRNA journey. And I also have some really important updates to share, so make sure you stay all the way to the end. Some important things are coming for CRNA School Prep Academy podcast, and I don't want you to miss out on those new features. All right, so in today's episode, again, we're going to talk about mentorship and how it can really play a large role in your success as you pursue CRNA. And for those of you who are new to the show, welcome. I'm so grateful you found us. My name is Jenny Finnell. I am the founder of CRNA School Prep Academy and currently the host of the podcast. So today we're going to talk about mentorship. And at the end, I'm going to share some important updates about the podcast and some things are going to be changing. So again, make sure you stay all the way to the end of the episode. But without further ado, let's get into today's topic. So I think mentorship is one of those areas where a lot of us understand mentorship from a very young age, but I think even speaking from my own experience, it can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And I don't think any definition or any type of mentorship is not quote unquote mentorship, but just how they say that there's 1,000 ways to deliver an anesthetic, there are different forms of mentorship and they're all good and for different reasons, right? So I think it's key when you're thinking about mentorship to understand there is not just one form of mentorship that can allow you to be successful. In fact, the more variety that you receive as far as mentorship, the better and more engaging mentorship will be for yourself and for the mentor providing the mentorship. And so let's look at some benefits and different types of mentorship relationships. So probably the one that's most commonly thought of is having like a one-on-one mentor, someone who is someone that you know, whether that be a family member or a friend of a family, who really takes you under their wing and really shares their career path or different life experiences with you. In the world of business, people do this in the business world all the time. It's a pretty common and standard thing where you find what they call advisors. And these advisors really help you as a mentor to help fuel the success of business. Well, in your career path, you find, say, a nurse who has achieved a certain goal within nursing, like becoming a CRNA, and you connect with them, and then they kind of take you under their wing and they mentor you. That's a really traditional form of mentorship. In the past, it was usually just an in-person experience or over the phone. With the birth of the internet, now a lot of things can be virtual. And so, again, mentorship has kind of become probably a more commonly experienced forum being online and being virtual than actually in person. However, there are benefits for both, right? You go for an in-person shadowing experience, for example, before you become a CRNA. That experience is so vital to your journey and to kind of building that passion and that desire to become a CRNA. And it's a step that really should not ever be skipped. But also connecting with a CRNA, even whether that's on a Zoom call or on the internet in some way, and just kind of understanding the career path, whether they're taking some time to make a YouTube video or whatever it may be, those are also really key areas of mentorship that maybe are not direct one-on-one, that are maybe not them getting to see you face to face, but equally are important because you're getting some insight into this career path to make better choices for yourself. And that's what it's really all about. Mentorship is really about empowering you to make the best choices for you. It's not trying to sway you or trying to push you in one direction or another. It's really about what do you need, what do you want, and helping you understand even what that is. Because I see a lot of students who embark on the CRNA path, they don't even know where to start. They know they want to accomplish this goal, but they don't even know where to start and what the order to do it in. And they get really frazzled when they think, I have all this stuff to do, but I don't know where to start. And I feel like I'm going to mess up a step or miss something. And Again, that's why CRNA School Prep Academy was born, and essentially also why Nurses Teach Nurses was born, because the power of mentorship is it really allows you to accelerate your success in really any area of life. It depends on what your end goal is. With CRNA School Prep Academy, it's becoming a CRNA, but it may be becoming a FNP. It could be becoming an ICU nurse. It could be becoming, a flight nurse, whatever it may be. There's different goals that you have for your career. And by placing yourself in the same room with someone else who has achieved that goal is going to allow you to miss barriers, to overcome hurdles, to speed up the process, because now you don't have to learn from trial and error. Yes, you still will, on occasion have some setbacks, but having a mentor, having an advisor allows you to accelerate your goals in life. That's ultimately what a mentor does. It allows you to make good decisions for yourself that are really going to fill your cup and lead you on a path of fulfillment and satisfaction. So one-on-one traditional mentorship is really the most common, but again, that can be done virtually, that can be done in person, that can be done over the phone. It could be done stranger to stranger. You're watching this video right now. I would be honored and grateful if you consider me a mentor, but I may have never met you, or I may not even know your name, but I do care. And this is receiving mentorship by plugging into the podcast every single week. So that is a form of mentorship that maybe isn't a traditional form, but definitely has become more commonplace in the realm of the way we can do technology these days. So that is essentially one form, is the fact that maybe you're going to someone who has an experience, who has achieved a certain career goal or life experience that you also desire. It's looking to someone who has a professional or more senior experience that can give you guidance on how they achieved it, how they got there. Now, the next type of mentorship, and again, I think most people think of mentorship as that form because they see you as a role model, or they see you, as you have achieved a certain goal. But I also want you to think about your peers. And I think back to this, and this is probably the most kind of thought about way of mentorship. I think it's because it's so commonplace and it's so kind of built and ingrained into our daily lives that we don't realize how important it is on who you surround yourself with just on a day-to-day basis, your peer-to-peers, your friends. And so this is peer-to-peer mentorship. If you surround yourself with people who have the same goals, who have the same ambitions, even if they're not the same, but are equally ambitious in their own ways, you're more likely to be successful because you're going to be each other's cheerleader through the ups and downs and peaks and troughs of the journey. And so peer-to-peer mentorship occurs kind of not through osmosis, but by being friends and by caring about someone else's dreams. That's peer-to-peer mentorship. I also think peer-to-peer mentorship is important because it's so relatable, right? And I kind of think back to my time as an anesthesia student going through CRNA school and, coming home from just a very exhausting, just challenging day in clinical and, just being just probably ghost white and tired. And, my husband asking me to explain my day and how to go and all this stuff. And I was just like mute, like I couldn't talk about it because I was like, there's just too much explaining that I have to do. I just can't, I don't have the energy to explain. But yet my fellow peers that were in class with me that were going to clinicals as well, I could open up and talk all day because they could fill in the blanks. They knew what I was experiencing. They already knew what I was going through, both emotionally, physically, and mentally. And it was like this instant connection because they could relate to what I was experiencing because they were actually in the mud with me. They were in the trenches with me. And there's something about that bond of having this similar experience and working towards the same goal of getting out of that mud that really brings you together and allows you both to excel. I kind of think of this as like a buddy system, or someone that is literally in the same position as you, but yet you're on the same path. And so this is also really powerful. So again, this could be a peer that is in the same nurse anesthesia program with you. This could be an ICU nurse who's also pursuing CRNA. This could be another nurse who's pursuing becoming acute care NP. Whatever the specialty may be, it's finding a peer who isn't further ahead of you, but is actually on the same path. And again, I think this is a very powerful tool because it keeps you on track. There's going to be times where life's going to beat you down and you're going to wonder if you should keep pursuing this. It's that peer-to-peer daily osmosis reinforcement that can really keep you motivated to keep tackling your goals. So that is why I think peer-to-peer mentorship is one of the most kind of observed or recognized form of mentorship, but it's there every day in your life. You just have to open your eyes and look for it. And wow, I really do surround myself with similar friends who have similar goals. And if you don't, that's okay too. I'm not trying to make you feel bad, but I also want you to start thinking like, how can I surround myself with people who are on the same path? Can I try to seek those people out? And one of the hindrance, I think, with becoming a CRNA, which I wish was not this way, it just is, that a lot of you are keeping this secret. A lot of you are fearing letting your coworkers know you're pursuing anesthesia because you're going to be black sheep on the unit. And I get it. There are some places that are not friendly towards CRNAs and they want to hinder you in every way possible. And that's unfortunate. I wish it wasn't true. And I would highly wish and pray that you could find a unit that was not like that, that would really encourage you to chase your goals no matter what they are. But you better believe there is someone else on that unit who also is hiding that secret. And how will you ever know if you don't start expanding your network and kind of being more open about it? So I encourage you, if you can find a safe place to get to know someone and try to share some ambitions with each other, to try to find someone else, whether that's on your unit or a different ICU unit that's sharing the same ambition, to get to know them and become friendly, because you could be each other's peer mentors along the journey. All right. And I know you guys who have listened to the podcast may have heard this story, but I'm going to tell it again for those of you who are hearing it for the first time. How this kind of worked for me. And again, it wasn't a way that I even probably recognized at the time, because to me, it just felt so natural. Like these had been my friends for a very long time. When I entered nursing school, for example, I don't know how, probably because I spoke to it a lot, because I was super excited about this career path. And I was like, I really want to become a CRNA, but so I used to speak to that was my goal, even though I had doubts, right? I was like, I really want to become a CRNA, but I still have a lot of doubts. But it allowed me to meet other nursing students who were on the same path. And those became my friends in nursing school. And then those friends became coworkers in the ICU. And then when we were all trying to get into CRNA school, we all studied together. If I found a good resource, I would share it. We would do study sessions, mock interview sessions. We were each other's peer-to-peer mentors. And guess what? We all got into CRNA school. We're all CRNAs. One of them didn't occur at the same time, but a few years later, she got in. So again, it's really just the beauty of helping one another and not really seeing each other as competition, because clearly we were, right? But knowing that your time will come, even if it's not this time, your time will come. And when you have a friend who's going to back you, we will work with you. And again, my friend who didn't get in right away, we worked with her for years and really coached her on the interview process and wouldn't let her quit. We said, no, you have to keep trying. And eventually she got in. So again, we were backing her, even though it didn't happen at the time she wished it would have happened when all of us got in. All right, the next form of mentorship is really group mentoring. And this is something that we do inside of the CRNA School Prep Academy, because I myself have been a part of a lot of group coaching programs. And while, yes, I'm an introvert by nature and definitely shy, and someone who wouldn't consider myself like I don't like to be in big groups of people, especially groups of people that I don't know. I tend to shut down. I tend to be really quiet, but not because I don't want to communicate or participate, but because I prefer listening and observing, and then only adding when I feel like I truly have good value to add, right? But I actually really enjoy more so listening to others than I do talking. Even though based on this podcast, you might not think that, but that's really how I am in a group setting. So, but that being said, group mentorship, while it can feel intimidating, that's such a limiting belief, and it really can hinder you from your success. And here's why. When you're in a group setting and you do listen, the beauty of what starts to happen is you realize there are questions and certain things that you're experiencing that other people are also experiencing. This does a couple of things. One, it helps you not feel alone. You're like, oh, I have had the same experience and it's so frustrating. And it just that automatic bond of like, I have someone who's in my group, right? I have someone who's experiencing the same struggle as me. This makes me feel more human, more connected. And okay, maybe we can tackle this together, right? And the next thing it does is it brings up things that you may not have actually thought about that were maybe a problem for you or a question. And it allows you to see how someone else thinks through a problem. And it allows you to insight on how you can, maybe if that's not the exact problem you have, it allows you insight on maybe how you can approach what you're struggling with in a different way, or it may even add on to your problem. We're like, oh, that's a good point. I only thought of this, but not this. And now I should think of these both together because it makes sense. And so as you can see, I'm kind of unraveling, but group mentorship can really allow you to, or I should enlighten you to see other perspectives and to hear other possibilities. So there are value to be had with both one-on-one and group mentorship. Now, the next one is, again, something that I don't think a lot of people realize. And one thing that I wish was not the case, but I know it to be true, is that a lot of you seeking out mentors and seeking out mentorship, I've heard a lot of nurses say, I feel like a burden. I feel like, I'm asking for someone's time. I have nothing to offer, nothing to give. I get it. I've been in that position where like, oh, I just really use some help, some guidance, but I don't have anything to offer. Right. But that's just not true. There is something called a reverse mentorship relationship where you as the mentee provides the mentor with so much wonderful insight. And it's like, I'm trying to think how this plays out in real life. So when I take students in the operating room, they ask a lot of questions, right? But some of these questions they ask, I'm like, oh, I haven't heard this question since I was studying for boards, or, but it really keeps my brain on fire and allows me to like start using knowledge that I've buried and tucked away. And so it actually helps keep me sharp. And then on top of that, as a mentor or a mentee, you're kind of having multiple experiences with different preceptors and seeing different methods and ways. And so I have students who do a technique. And I'm like, where did you see that at? And they're like, oh, so-and-so showed me. I'm like, that's amazing. I'm going to put it in my toolbox. And so I learn a lot from my mentees, and I don't know if they always realize that. And I think that you should understand that you do bring that to the table and that you should never feel like a burden. Now, it's one of those things where it's when you're asking a complete stranger, I do think there's something to be said with building a relationship first versus going up to a stranger on the street saying, hey, can you spend an hour of your time with me? Because they'd be like, who are you? What's your name? And so there is a method to receiving reverse mentorship, and kind of building that relationship is really what it starts with. So really any kind of mentorship, whether that is mentorship that you're paying for or mentorship that you are getting for free, whether it be through a friend or someone an acquaintance, right? It really starts with a relationship. And the reason why paid mentorship, that barrier is less, is because you don't have to build that relationship. You obviously are essentially skipping that line by, on Nurses Teach Nurses, you can pay for someone's time. But out there on day to day, if you want to get a mentor, someone that you really look up to, you have to do the work ahead of time and build that relationship. And that takes time. And so it's one of those things where you can work towards that goal. It's not going to be an overnight success. And some may pan out, some may not. And the reality is not every person you think should be your mentor should be your mentor. I think that can really hurt some people who maybe think someone should be their mentor, and maybe they get kind of the closed door and things like that. I have heard of that happening. Or maybe they, give them they call it ghosting these days, where they don't get an email response. But I think before you take experiences like that personally, I think you need to reflect on a lot of different things, meaning, if you're emailing someone who you're hoping to hear back from, whether that's a current student or a CRNA that you've never met, but you got a connection through someone, they may have an inbox that gets flooded. They may not see it. They may not know who you are. They may not, or they may open it. They may think to respond, but maybe they're driving, or maybe they're at their kid's soccer game. They're like, oh, I'll get back to that later. And they never do. I'm guilty of that. So there's a lot of things that be going on. So never, ever make assumptions with why someone hasn't got back with you. And then also be willing to walk away and start over and find someone else if it doesn't work out. So I think that's kind of the mentality you have to go into this with, and to not take no as a never. It just means either no, not this person, or no, not now. So I think that's the way you have to look at it, especially when you're approaching people that you don't know. But really the best way is, even if it's not financial value, you have value to offer. And what is that? It's really about finding what that value piece is, whether that's an experience you had, whether that's, maybe occasionally throwing someone an article that you think that they would find interesting because you've been following them on social media of any kind, and you think that they would really find this to be insightful. It's just building these little tiny building blocks to where eventually they're like, yeah, let's meet, let's connect. And there you go. And then you start that relationship. So that's kind of the building blocks of trying to establish a mentorship relationship, especially a free mentorship relationship, which I highly encourage you to seek out in any way possible. And opportunities are out there in every shape and form. Again, don't always think you have to pay for people's time at all. But I also don't want you to limit yourself with the fact that there are lots of other options out there, coaching programs, things of that nature. CRNA School Prep Academy is technically a coaching program, a mentorship program. And again, it is paid, but it gives you so much immense value. It connects you instantly with the right people, gives you community support and things of that nature. And same thing with Nurses Teach Nurses. The nurses who are on there providing the mentorship, they are the ones who are using the mentorship back when they were trying to get into CRNA school. So that's the beauty of this system, is it kind of is a big circle system. So even though you may be paying for that mentorship now, think about when you become a mentor and you're using your knowledge and skills and expertise to then mentor the next generation, who is then rewarding you for your time. It's a process that really creates a lot of gratitude and appreciation. So don't be afraid to invest in yourself to get the outcome you desire. So I think that is another key takeaway, is do not be afraid to invest in yourself in your future.
Well, hello, future CRNA, another daily dose of inspiration along your CRNA journey. This success story starts with, I just wanted to post this as a reminder that you can get into CRNA school even with a low GPA. I would always see people posting their stats with a high GPA, community service, every certification, asking if they had a shot at school, and feel so discouraged about my own application. I got into school with my first degree GPA of a 2.98 with C's in most of my science classes and completely failing out after my freshman year. My nursing GPA was just a 3.4. I never really took any classes, only microbiology, general chemistry as prerequisites for nursing school since I had a previous C's. My science GPA is still probably way under a 3.0. The only certification I have is a CCRN. I have nothing special under my belt like committees or community service. I was just flat out honest with my grades in my interview and emphasized my passion and dedication to becoming a CRNA in my personal statements. I hope this was helpful for someone because I know how it feels to see all the stats people post and feel that you will never make it because you don't have a perfect competitive GPA. You can do it. I just love this so much. Thank you, who you are, for sharing this, because this really truly does give so many hope. And hope is a powerful, powerful thing. If you have hope, you have belief. If you have belief, you take action. So thank you so much for sharing this. You do not have to be perfect. The road to CRNA, while it's going to be full of ups and downs, and yes, with these kind of statistics, you may face rejection. More than likely you will, but that should be the expectation. And then you should try to find ways to grow and spread your reach. Try out different programs. You never know unless you try. And, this student gave themselves a chance, even though they weren't sure if they'd make it. And I guess I wanted to also point this out because recently we launched a CRNA Guarantee program, which I'm so thrilled about. But you guys, it was really hard to pick students. And I saw so much in all these students, and I wanted to accept every single one. But we couldn't. We couldn't do that. And I've said it, but I want to say it again, especially if you're listening to this podcast and that was you. I believe in you. I really, really believe in you. And I hope you believe in yourself, to give yourself the gift of trying. So with that, I'll leave you guys something to ponder, and let's get back into the show.
All right. So next is let's talk about some of the benefits of mentorship. And I know I talked about the different types of relationships you can have and how to build those relationships and how to go about that. But why do you need a mentor? Maybe you're thinking, well, it seems like a lot of work. Is it really going to be beneficial? Or maybe you're thinking, gosh, I really don't want to pay for mentorship. In my opinion, mentorship should be free, which I know some people feel that way. But again, speaking of free, podcasts are free. YouTube channels are free. There are a lot of ways that you can still get mentorship and not actually spend any money. So again, mentorship doesn't always have to be paid, but I do think when you invest in a mentorship program or in coaching and get that one-on-one connection, it's something that it's going to transform your life. It's going to change you. And I myself was resistant to do this, even myself. But now that I do, it just it brings me so much clarity. And I'm not going to lie. I mean, I have felt very alone at times, especially, being a nurse, going on to build a mentorship program. I'm becoming more of a businesswoman. And I'm like, holy cow, I'm so out of my league here. Like, it's not even funny. And so I have invested in business coaches, and I will always, and even mindset coaches, because I'm not going to lie, I've gotten in dark places, and I'm so glad I have invested in those coaches and therapy, because it's really saved me. It saved me from myself, essentially. And I just know you can experience the same benefit through mentorship. But okay, some other benefits, such as personal and professional growth. This is kind of what I just talked to. This doesn't just have to be professional. This could be personal growth. This could be mindset work. And one thing that I think is really cool and really fascinating about the aspect of nursing is your medical background and knowledge builds a skill set that is unique to what your background is. For example, if you're a labor and delivery nurse and you have experience coaching mothers after delivery on how to get, their bladder control back, right? I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it does happen. But that being said, you have that unique background. Now you can be a coach for all women across the entire world because you have this nursing background, and you can coach them on pelvic floor exercises. I mean, that's pretty special to have that background and be able to help women all across the world. And so don't limit yourself to just, I'm a nurse, that's all I am. You are so much more than that. And, similarly, I just spoke to Kristen Hall, who is a legal expert witness as a CRNA. She is using her background as a CRNA providing anesthesia to be an expert witness and understands what goes into providing a safe anesthetic, right? So that's, again, how she's leveraging her background, not necessarily giving up being a CRNA, but she's now expanded her career path so that way she can have more flexibility in her life. And so that's what I'm talking about as far as and she went through a program to learn how to do that, to learn how to set up her LLC and get in and how to contact and become an expert witness. She invested in herself through a program and a mentorship program that helped her accelerate her success. So on a personal level, I think mentoring can look like, mindset coaching and how to deal with stress. And as a nurse, you uniquely know how to speak to some of the stressors that nobody else can relate to. How many other professions put people in body bags almost every day, or at least every week sometimes, depending on where you work? No one. And so that is something that is unique to your experience as a nurse. How many people can say they've dealt with, again, some of the gross things that nurses have dealt with, or some of the really challenging, stressful, life-threatening situations, running a code or dealing with a combative, but yet delirious patient, and how incredibly stressful that can be, because it's like, oh, they're out of their mind. You don't want to get mad, but it's like they're being abusive, and you're on your last string. You're like, so, but how many people can relate to that? How many people have to go into a job that day and be abused by their patient, but it's because their patient is delirious, right? So that is something unique to your experience that I think other nurses need someone to confide in and talk to about those experiences, who gets it. As I spoke to before, the peer-to-peer thing, being in the trenches, being in the mud with someone else, it feels like a huge sense of relief to know that you can speak your mind with a situation and they automatically get it. They automatically know what you're talking about. So again, on a personal way, it allows you to feel more connected to your profession. It allows you to feel just more at peace, knowing that there's someone else going through these same emotions as you. And there could be a nurse who has figured out how to handle the stress of being in the ICU, and who can come with us a wealth of information how to deal with death all the time, right? I know I sure struggled with that when I was in the ICU, and to the point where I had never clinically been depressed other than the time I was in the ICU, like clinically depressed. I've never cried so much in my life. And obviously I knew I had to remove myself from that type of environment. And so many nurses feel the same way. And there's just no better support system out there than your fellow ICU nurse who can cry on your shoulder with you. And I read an article recently about a nurse who actually did leave due to the pandemic and being completely burnt out. She's an ICU nurse. And she said that she ended up having these lunches with her coworkers, and it turned into therapy sessions for each other, because they all could relate so well to the stresses that they were going through. And so again, it ended up being how they got support for one another. So again, I think to just reiterate how important it is for that peer-to-peer relationship to get that personal aspect of what you need as a human. And then for professional growth, I mean, the beauty of professional growth is you just never know what connection or what type of light bulb idea can really change the entire trajectory of your career and life. And the more you embrace being uncomfortable and getting in the room with people who have either achieved what you want to achieve or who are in the thick of it like you are, it just brings about lots of new innovation and ideas. And it's really rewarding. It's really, it like lights you up. And while for someone who's an introvert like me, it might seem intimidating and kind of like, so uncomfortable, I don't want to do it. But when you do force yourself to do it, the enjoyment you get out of it is just so rewarding that then you're intrigued to do it again and again and again. So getting the insights and perspectives that really help you both personally and professionally grow. Networking kind of leads into this, where again, you don't know who someone knows. And speaking for the anesthesia community, but really for the entire nursing community, I know we're large, but it's also very small. You'd be surprised. I've only been on LinkedIn seriously now, anywhere from, I don't know, probably 3-4 months. I've met nurses that we've crossed paths like 12 years ago at Ohio State. I was like, oh my gosh. So it's just crazy how small this world is, and how somehow, even though you have somehow crossed paths in the distant future, now all of a sudden, ping, they're on your feed. Or, I mean, and then taking those opportunities to meet with them, to talk with them, is so critical and so huge, because we're really just a big giant network of people who all want the same thing. Especially as nurses, we really are all out there to accomplish the same goal. And when you work together, more gets done. So again, when you network, you build this community of people who are going to kind of lift you up and push you forward and help you. And so networking opportunities is really, really critical. This is also why we often talk about going to conferences within the anesthesia community, and really getting to know your future professors, your educators, who are at the anesthesia program that you want to attend, going to open houses, things of that nature, because it's really, really critical to just start that networking process, and also meeting fellow peers who are on the same path. Career advancement, I think this is kind of, it's very clear when you're pursuing CRNA, that's what your intention are. But I don't think all nurses think that there's career advancement for them if they're not planning to go back to grad school. You don't have to go back to grad school to advance your career. You could find a career path within nursing that just fuels you up better, that just fills you up versus depleting you. And I think the problem that a lot of nurses are experiencing now is they're maybe in a certain area of nursing that is just not right, and they don't know how to escape it. I've also read enough Reddit threads and things of that nature where nurses are hopping around. They're trying to find the right unit, and they're getting exhausted trying to doing so, and they're ready to call it quits because they don't want to try another unit. I can't imagine how stressful that would be to go unit hopping, because that's like starting a new job all the time, and that's incredibly draining. I would not want to do it. But if you had a nurse from a unit to talk to before you made that jump, I think you could make a better decision. I think you could say, oh yeah, I'm glad I talked to you about that. Yeah, that's not for me. You're right. And you guys, something that may be a good fit for someone may not be a good fit for you. But when you're talking to a mentor who is in an area of nursing that you think you want to branch out to, let's just say you're going from med surg to ICU, maybe you're interested, but you're not quite sure. Talking to an ICU nurse and getting their perspective is really great, but maybe you're between that and the PACU. So now you talk to an ICU nurse in the PACU and you try to decide what's best for you based on what you're hearing from the mentor, who's kind of telling you what their day-to-day, what are the stressors, what are the perks, what are the downs, like what's the benefits and the negatives of working on these units, what is their day life work balance like, and things like that. So those are some of the things that you want to be asking when you're connecting with these mentors. And finding opportunities to do that is really key when it comes to advancing your career. Even if it's not going on to grad school, even if it's just going to a different unit, that's still advancing your career in a way that brings more fulfillment and satisfaction into your life. And there's also something to be said when you connect with a mentor in a non-threatening environment, how much more safety and comfort you feel with the questions you can ask. So I see this being important for like clinical, for example. When you're in clinical, it's really fast paced, it's hard to slow down, and efficiency is important, right? So you don't always have questions to stop and reflect on things. And sometimes, depending on who your preceptor is, they aren't the warmest, or maybe you shouldn't even be precepting, period. You know how that goes. But if you find a preceptor or a mentor outside of the clinical realm who is saying, hey, I love mentorship, I'm here to help you, there's no such thing as a dumb question, here, let's talk, that creates an environment of safety, and one that you can talk about, your failed IV sticks, and maybe different techniques or tactics they can try next time, or maybe some, how to deal with a patient experience that left you feeling this way, or how to communicate better with a family, or whatever it may be. Talking to a seasoned nurse who has had some of these experiences really allows you to feel more confident and more ready to tackle the field of nursing. So that is, again, how mentorship can really help you advance your career, even if you're still a nursing student, all the way through an experienced nurse changing units and going to a completely different specialty, because specialties are very different. The expectations are very different from specialty to specialty. So it really is like starting all over again. Even though you have experience, there are a lot of things that are going to be brand new for you as a new specialty. All right. And then I spoke on it a little bit, or touched on it, that increased confidence. So I think this is a huge one. I hear all the time, imposter syndrome. I myself have experienced it. And while I can't say you're always going to be 100% confident, because I don't know if that's actually good either, right? You need some doubt to create vigilance, right? But that being said, I think you should not feel so hindered by your fear to not allow you to move forward, to not allow you to advance your degree. And that's what imposter syndrome does. Imposter syndrome keeps you back. It stops you. It stops you from advancing. It stops you from trying to find fulfillment because it seems too scary and not real and unachievable. And so having someone else lift you up and say, no, you are capable, you can do this, and here's how. This is how I can talk you through all these potential problems and setbacks. And essentially, CRNA School Prep Academy does a lot of this by giving you kind of what I call look at your blind spots. We help students look at their blind spots and really assess themselves from an applicant point of view. So that way they can get a head start on addressing these before they get all the way to their application due date and realize they have missed the mark, right? And don't get in and then don't know why they didn't get in and things of that nature. So again, increasing confidence in knowing how to tackle the road ahead of you or understanding what some of the nuances of whatever specialty may be, it allows you to feel more calm and at ease. And who wants to work all the time like they're in a massive anxiety state? I sure don't. And unfortunately, when you don't have someone to ask questions or comfortably ask questions, it not only creates anxiety, but it creates fear and anger and sadness. And let's just face it, I think the state of nursing right now is we're all fearful because of all the different things that are going on. But by utilizing your peers, by having peer-to-peer support, you can really, really help yourselves create that confidence and allow you to feel like you have a voice, that you do deserve to have a voice. And you do. You are a nurse. You're not just a nurse. So wipe that out of your vocabulary. You are a nurse and you should be proud of that. And that's also where if you experience something that is negative, you lean on your peer-to-peer support to really help you, your peer-to-peer mentors, right? Lastly, mentorship can improve your communication skills. And the reason why I think this is kind of a nice one that I think is not generally always thought about, is because it just develops insidiously. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but over time, it develops kind of slowly and really without you knowing it develops. And the reason why I know this to be true is because the more you speak what you feel and get feedback and reflect on that, it allows you to then speak more clearly next time. Like think about if you're having a conversation and you're trying to explain something to someone, they're like, oh, but what about this, this, and this? And you're like, oh, well, I meant that, but here, maybe I didn't explain it the best way. So then you try again, right? So when you have these conversations and back to back, and you're trying to explain, whether that be an emotion, an experience, or an outcome of whatever kind, the feedback you're getting from your mentor can then help you then more clearly communicate, because you have to make sure there's understanding. And I do think our current generations are lacking this more and more because of the use of cell phones. And I'm at that weird tiptoe generation where I had text messages for a very long time, but not the way that we have them today, not the fact that we have a computer in our pocket all day. But it does take away from that human reflection on tone of voice and how you communicate. So I think a lot of people now are kind of experiencing this for the first time as a professional adult in the workforce. And sometimes it can be kind of a hard learning point, especially coming from an older generation who didn't have to learn that way. They learned it from a very young age, right? We don't necessarily learn that from a very young age anymore. We have to kind of learn it when we go into this professional workforce, and with people who are who are a little bit older than us, that, but you know what I mean? Just grew up in a different generation. And we get a lot of flack for that, right? But the more you have these conversations with different mentors and peers, the more you improve upon your communication skills. And this is so critical in the healthcare environment, whether you're an ICU nurse and CRNA or any kind of nurse, when you're communicating, that's the key part of healthcare delivery. Communication is so key, and making sure you're collaborating as an interdisciplinary team and bringing things to the forefront, advocating for your patient. And sometimes it's all about how you approach what you want for your patient, because if it's approached the wrong way, it seems maybe defensive or a demand versus a suggestion. And so it's learning these things, but it does take time. But this is where, peer-to-peer mentorship and mentors who have more experience than you can really help you talk through difficult situations that you have experienced, whether that be in nursing school or as a nurse, and really say, oh, that's similar to an experience I had this way, and this is how I resolved it. And you guys can kind of talk about it a little bit and kind of give you some insight and reflective moments to say, oh, maybe I could have handled it a little bit differently. I like the way you pointed this out. I'll try that next time. So that kind of sums up the benefits of mentorship. I'm sure there are way more. I feel like I should have thought of like 100 more, but that is all for today. And now on to some updates and just some things to going forward for the podcast. So if you've been a listener now for a while, you've also heard me mention nurses teach nurses. This is because I believe in the power of mentorship. I believe in the pay it forward culture it creates. And I know this to be true because over the last 3 years that we've mentored over 5,000 nurses pursuing CRNA. And the first thing they do when they get accepted is say, how can I help? How can I get back? I want to mentor, send people my way. And it's so wonderful, you guys. And I'm like, what if all nurses had this type of resource? And we started essentially hiring our successful graduates to become mentors within CRNA School Prep Academy. And we did services such as resume edits, personal statement edits, mock interviews, etc. But I was like, it would be really great to allow all nurses to experience the power of mentorship, to allow a marketplace where nurses could support other nurses, where nurses could give back in a circle system where maybe you're the mentee, but someday you're the mentor. And I just love that. And so again, I went on to embark on building Nurses Teach Nurses with that in mind. And I want to allow nurses to be able to be the ones delivering the education and mentorship through this open marketplace. And so that is what we are currently embarking upon. And with that, will be coming some changes in the podcast. I will not be going away. I will still be here, but just in a different way and definitely less frequently. So I'm not, it's funny. I love podcasts. I listen to them all the time, but it's always saddened me when I have a favorite podcast and all of a sudden they have an episode where they just stop and they don't even tell you why it's changing, why they decided to stop. They just like stop and they just leave it like, bye. And like, I can't do that to you guys. Like, I love you. I love everyone. I mean, I appreciate you for supporting the podcast and I want your feedback and I want to hear from you. So I'm going to put my email in the show notes below and I want to know your feedback on the changes because again, I would love to just understand if this is a good thing, bad thing, how we can make it better and things of that nature. But that being said, one thing that I'm trying to do to provide you more value, something a little bit different than what we're used to doing on the show, is really factual, concrete knowledge, such as pathophysiology, pharmacology, and really geared towards ICU nursing. However, it's going to expand into anesthesia knowledge. So I know a lot of you love stuff like this, and you can't get enough of it if you're like me. So I'm hoping I'm on the right path with providing you this type of episodes in the near future. But we actually have a fellow student of ours, David Bearden, who's coming on the show as the new co-host, and he's going to be doing episodes and teaching pharmacology, pathophysiology, eventually anesthesia concepts. He is a current anesthesia student, and so he's really excited about doing the show. And he's just going to be so great at it. I just know he's going to be so great, and I'm excited to share this with you guys. I think it'll be really great prep for your interviews and also prep to start CRNA school. So I'm hoping it provides tons of value for you. I can't tell you how many times I get messages from students who want just a deeper in-depth explanation on X, Y, and Z topic. And so I'm hoping that these quick 15, 20-minute in-depth episodes on some type of pharmacology topic or pathophys topic will be exactly what you're looking for. So that is how the show is going to change. Now, I don't know exactly if that's going to be 3 days a month or 2 days a month. We also are starting a faculty podcast that I do plan to share tips and tidbits from that with you guys. However, the bulk of those episodes will be inside the CRNA School Prep Academy. And we'll be doing 4 of those a month. So again, I might take one and take a 10-minute clip that I find really helpful to share with you guys on this show. So again, I'm not sure if the pathophysiology pharmacology is going to be 4 days a month, 3 days a month. And then of course, you're still going to have me. Again, my appearance is going to be more sporadic. Again, probably with a lot of guest episodes coming on the show to do guest appearances and things of that nature. So that is the major changes that are coming to the show. I didn't want to stop it. I want so badly to be able to continue this because I love it and I love you guys. I hope this is a good solution to be able to continue it in a way that is sustainable. So that is what's going on. And thank you so very much. Again, if you want to leave me your feedback on that update, please, whether it's good, bad, whatever in between, I'm happy to have it. I will leave my email in the show notes. And if you have not learned about Nurses Teach Nurses, I highly encourage you to go over and check it out. You do not have to be a CRNA. You do not have to be an SRNA. You don't even have to be a nurse. You could be a nursing student who I've talked to nursing students who are mentoring and tutoring nursing students. Maybe they love pathophysiology. It's their jam. And so they tutor students. Any type of tutoring, coaching, mentorship, it's all welcome on the site. So again, you don't have to have achieved the goal of becoming an SRNA or a CRNA to be on the site. I know based on the people you see on there now, it may look that way, but that's just because it has fueled a lot of students who have gone on from our program to be successful. But it's open for anyone, and you always have something to give. Remember, there's peer-to-peer. Yes, you can be the mentor who has a level of experience someone else wants, but you can even just be a peer-to-peer mentor. That's valuable as well. All right. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you next week. All right. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.
Hey, future CRNA, as always, I appreciate you and your loyalty. Thank you so very much for tuning in this week. I'd love to hear from you, so screenshot this episode and share it to your IG stories with your biggest takeaway. Don't forget to tag me at CRNA School Prep Academy so I can personally thank you. Be sure to head over to CRNASchoolPrepAcademy.com to check out our blog and gather free resources to help you along your CRNA journey. Stay strong, and I'll see you next week.